Carl, how's it going today?
Hi, Rasheed. How are you? Good morning. Good evening. I just want to make one announcement while here on your channel. My YouTube is back. My YouTube is back. It's really me that's running it. It was hacked for like a week, but I finally got it back from Google. So now I'm up and running. My channel is still me again, not some crypto guy pushing cryptocurrency.
I'm glad you addressed that because that was the first thing I was going to bring up because I got a lot of messages saying, "Hey, someone needs to help Carl out," and I was going to bring it up. Has that been remedied? And I'm glad it has been. So, Carl, let's get into it, man. There's so much. I want to start off with Trump and the sanctions because I have a different take on things that mostly everybody else has. And so I was looking at the situation when Trump threatened um, what is it, Panama, then he threatened Mexico, he threatened Europe, then he threatened Canada, right? And just it just so happened in the last hours, right before the sanctions took effect, I heard that Panama has acquiesced and also and has taken any um, charges off all shipping that's going through the Panama Canal. I don't know how true that is, but earlier this morning, the birdie whispered in my ear and said that Panama will not be charging um, um, for U.S. shipping to go through. And at the last minute, uh, the Europeans was pushed to the side. Mexico was pushed to the side. Canada was pushed to the side, but not China. That some sanctions went through on China, and I believe that was intentional. I think this was a play. I don't think that the sanctions were going to go on Mexico or Canada like most people think. I think that sometimes when you have different plans, you don't want to show your hand, so you don't want everybody to believe that you're picking on China or picking on someone else. So you start pointing to everybody else, but really, when it comes down to China is the one that's hit with the tariffs. What do you say about this situation? Because China is hitting back.
Right. Well, first of all, even a lot of what we heard about Mexico and Canada caved to Trump's demand, a lot of that is PR and spin
Mm-hmm.
because Trudeau announced a plan. They're going to deploy like 10,000 Canadian police to monitor the border, et cetera, et cetera. Guess what? He made the same announcement last year during Biden administration. So this is nothing new. This was already in the works, and very similar in Panama. Panama, they announced they have withdrew from China's Belt and Road Initiative. Belt and Road Initiative. First of all, Belt and Road Initiative is not an alliance. It's not an alliance you join and then you leave. It's just a sign. It's just you signify your interest to welcome Chinese investment to start building infrastructure project. And back in 2019, when the previous Panama President Cortez was elected, he already canned most important Belt and Road project in Panama. He canned the $4 billion high speed rail project that China was going to build in Panama. And so right now, there's really no major Belt and Road project going on in Panama right now, except one where they're building a bridge over the canal because that project is in the midst, is half finished. So China is going to finish that project. They're not going to stop it halfway. But there's no new project coming in. So this so-called announcement of Panama withdrew from Belt and Road Initiative, it's just like the Italian leader Meloni made the same announcement last year. This is just for show. They're just they're signifying to U.S. Okay, we're trying to get on your good side. Please don't invade us.
Mm-hmm.
That's and you give Trump administration an easy PR win, right? Like Panamanian government actually didn't have to do anything. U.S. government didn't have to do anything, but both score a PR victory because Panama said, "Hey, look, we're forestalling American invasion by by moving away from China, and then Trump administration can claim that, hey, we scored a great victory. We made the Panamanian acquiesce to our demands, and what China did is they didn't make a big fuss about it. They didn't go on Twitter like Trudeau, cry about it. China just took U.S. to court in WTO because this is a WTO violation, and they're going to see them in court. And China is preparing its own sanctions right now, a list of sanctions against U.S. This is how a mature country handle its business. They're preparing for they prepare for it, and now they're just following through. They're not going to make a big stink about it because that's what United States do. U.S. is all talk. The Trump administration, it's very typical. A U.S. administration, not even typical. They actually Trump takes it to 11. There's a lot of big announcements, a lot of talks, but underneath that, it's a lot of spin. But there's one thing Trump did do that will have a lasting impact. That is his canning, the freezing of the funds of USAID. and everyone kind of instinctively knew the USAID is an intelligence operation run by the U.S. government. Everyone knew that CIA was funding all kind of news organization or kind of NGOs, because we know that from past CIA history. So nobody was in doubt. But when USAID get canned, and we actually find out who exactly got funded with U.S. taxpayers' money, it's still, it's still pretty wild. British government, British taxpayer funded media supposedly was receiving USAID money. Political, U.S. Political was funded by USAID money, and you have all these like internet streamers that was funded by USAID money, like Volsh, Richard Hania. Wow, it's like and which I just saw another quote unquote China expert who works in for Axial probably get USAID money as well, but she said the freezing of U.S. aid money is causing utter destruction in the China related NGO right now. He said like this is really critical for our understanding. This is all this money help us to to prove that China is lying, that China's approach is wrong. Like, wait a minute. Why do you need to spend millions and millions of dollars to prove another country is doing something wrong? That's just weird. Like, you don't need to give us any millions of dollars to show that US is up to shady stuff, because that's wide in the open. And these people, they're just telling on themselves right now. The whole USAID, I agree with some analysis, for example, by Brian Burdick. He said, look, this Trump is not doing away with U.S. empire. It's just all this energy, all this source of fund will get redirected. It's going to get folded under State Department and CIA. I tend not to agree with that, because now that everybody knows USAID is a CIA cutout, a CIA front, there's no need to be coy about it. Just roll everything under CIA. But having said that, this disruption is going to have lasting impact, because even at the end of the day, they will eventually reorganize and reroute and concentrate the control in either State Department or CIA. In the meantime, all those grifters who are funded by US aid, they can't sit around for 6 months or a year for the dust to settle before their checks clear. They're going to have to find new jobs. And guess what? That's going to take that's the where the lasting impact is going to come from. I have no doubt this is just Trump's attempt to reorganize the U.S. empire. But in doing so, this is going to cause a major disruption. and the disruption is not going to be healed anytime soon. You know, a lot of people will be out of money, out of jobs, so have to seek new jobs. So by the time the U.S. reorganize, you know, those people already moved on. They already moved on to greener pastures. So this is where the major disruption that Trump is causing. But in terms of tariffs, China has been preparing that since the Biden administration. When they saw that Biden was not going to back away from the Trump sanction but double down, they expected that Trump will slap sanction when he come into office. So China already quietly prepared for that, and so they just took it, deal with the nonsense like take USA to court. We're gonna have to see how much the Trump tariff on China is a negotiation tactic by Trump. Because this is what, you know, Trump is a businessman at the end of the day. He's very transactional. He may be like putting up his, like, okay, he's showing his hands. Look, this is what I can do. I can slap more sanction on you unless you come to the table to negotiate with me. And this is something that China can work with. China can you know, as long as there's a back and forth, there's a negotiation going on in the background. Because you know, now we know Trump base and Trump himself can be easily appeased by just giving him some PR victory. This is where I think the TikTok development the TikTok story is going to be interesting, because now the TikTok story kind of faded away after the Trump extension, but it's not an unbanning of TikTok. The ban was done by legislation by U.S. Congress. That's still in effect. What Trump did was give it a 75 days extension to implement the ban. But in the meantime, Apple and Google, they all complied to the ban, and they removed TikTok from the App Store. So at the end of the 75 days, if TikTok is not sold to a U.S. company, or you know, the ban goes in place, and then it's up to Trump to say whether he will do another extension. But this is where, you know, maybe I can see China just tell Biden, okay, you know, we'll give Trump some victory, cut off TikTok from Biden's, swap out its algorithm, because the most precious thing about TikTok is its algorithm. It's not even its user base, because you know, people can be quite fickle in how to pick and choose their social media platform. You know, do people still remember MySpace? I mean, this is so people will choose the best TikTok, best social media platform. TikTok just happened to provide the best AI algorithm, but China is. I don't think China will or ByteDance will give up their trade secret, which is their AI algorithm, where they have competitive edge. So what you may have is, you know, some kind of takeover by Oracle or Meta, where they replace the TikTok algorithm with like Instagram algorithm or something. But eventually, people are gonna notice. It's like, what's the point to move from, you know, Instagram to TikTok and have the same recommendation engine in the back? You know, you just have another. It's just another interface. Then it's meaningless. So I mean, people can jump ship into another social media platform very quick. You know, unless they keep on banning different Chinese social media app, like, you know, what some in Congress are proposing to do with Red Note, because a lot of TikTokers are migrating to Red Note because in anticipation of the ban. Again, we're gonna have to wait and see, because right now Trump has a lot on his plate. You know, he already wanted Greenland. He wanted to annex Canada. He wanted to take over Panama Canal. We're gonna have to see how much, and he wants to take over Gaza. So let's see. We'll have to wait and see how much that actually pan out, or is it just all, you know, talks.
And we'll talk about Gaza shortly. But I want to revisit something. I have a different perspective than most media on the USAID, and I have been saying this ad nauseum constantly. The United States is in a very precarious economic and political situation with the rise of China, the reemergence of Russia, and the emergence of Iran, and the rise of the BRICS, which all counter U.S. and Western domination. And I've often said, wouldn't it be easier for America to stop antagonizing the very nations that she needs to buy her debt and do all of this stuff? But America, most people, when they're looking at the revealing of all of this stuff from USAID, most of us who are informed already understood that. And I believe that this was to buy some geopolitical capital, and to use the money, to reroute the money to other areas that is much needed now, especially when dealing with China and Iran and the reemergence of Russia. I think this was a smooth way to present this to the world, so that the world can say, hey, he is revealing the secrets of USAA, when most people already knew that it started color revolutions, assassinations, overthrow of governments, incited riots and protests, and all of this stuff like this. And I believe that with the media so much focused on that and beating that drum, it is building up some type of geopolitical capital for Trump in his negotiations with China, Iran, Russia, the BRICS. And it's also allowing him to now reroute some much needed funding, because America is essentially broke, financially bankrupt. And this would buy the empire just a little bit more time, and to stop the stampede out of the dollar. That's part of the take that I have on it, and I'll let you address that. And then I want to go back to something else you said about TikTok and Apple and Meta. So I'll let you address that part.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely some people in the Trump administration, like Elon Musk, right? I mean, his goal is supposedly to make the government more efficient. I just saw him tweet out a Milton Friedman interview from back in the days, where Milton Friedman said, okay, let's just keep Department of Defense, Department of State, and half of the national health, the Department for National Health. That's it. We can get rid of everything else. Department of Education. Oh, and keep Department of Justice. So they're just keeping like 3.5 departments, and then axing everything else. And that's obviously what Elon Musk wants to do. He's talking about cutting government fat, cutting out all these government expenditures. And USAID is part of that, but that's, again, it's going to have consequences, because USAID was like the soft power weapon of United States abroad, and Trump just decided, you know what, we don't need that software power weapon anymore, because this is what I like about Trump. He's always very honest about U.S. imperialism.
Yeah.
We want the oil. We want the oil. Just give us money. And so, he feel like he can dispense with all that soft power stuff. And this is why a lot of the Europeans are getting up in arms right now, because they thought they had been the good dogs, right? They have been the good puppies, yet they're getting punished. But they're getting punished exactly because they have been plying vassals to the United States, because Trump knows there will be no pushback. What's Denmark going to do if U.S. will take Greenland? Nothing. Denmark, are they going to appeal to NATO? I mean, NATO is dominated by United States. What recourse does Canada have? Nothing. They really are stuck, because they have been tying their entire geopolitical future and fortune to the United States bandwagon, and Trump knows that too, and China, Russia, those are truly sovereign nations. They can say no to United States, but not Denmark, not EU, not Canada. They can't say no to United States. And Trump decided, you know what, I'm gonna pick those low-hanging fruit. I'm not gonna, like confronting China and Russia. That's just too hard. Let's just consolidate United States position by cannibalizing our allies, like we we have been doing for a while, but I'm just going to do it more openly. And I think it, I think there might be something to what you said about using get some geopolitical capital as a prelude to negotiation, because at the end of the day, Trump is a businessman. He's very transactional, and he can show results. Now he's showing results. Look, I can USAID. I can do much more. I can do even more damage. And it will be interesting to see what he would want in return, right? We kind of know what the agenda is. Agenda is they want, they claim they want reindustrialize. All the tariff is meant to help reindustrialize in the United States, right? To bring manufacturing jobs back. Well, that's all well and good. But I just don't see that will happen without cooperation from China, for example. I already saw somebody posting a tweet. He said, why don't we do what China's do, but in reverse? Now we already have tariffs. Now let's invite in the Chinese multinationals to come invest in the United States, but we require them to be 50-50 joint ventures. This is what Trump said about TikTok, by the way. He said he wants TikTok to be a joint venture, 50% owned by the United States. And then the idea is require the Chinese tech companies to do tech transfer to their U.S. joint venture partners, because this is what China's playbook. Let's just copy it just to reverse engineer it. But this kind of I have my doubts on this kind of execution, because first of all, the only thing to entice China to enter this deal, only thing they can put up right now is basically the access to the U.S. market, the U.S. market access. But in the past, during the first Trump term and during the Biden administration, China has already laid the groundwork to decouple from the United States.
Yep.
Now, their exposure to the U.S. market risk is being minimized, and they're expanding massively in the global South. In Latin America, Southeast Asia, Africa. So they're less dependent on the U.S. market. So, so they really have to sweeten the offer to the Chinese, if they want some kind of, win-win approach, because just the mere keep the U.S. market access open to Chinese companies, to force them to invest in U.S., I'm not sure, because again, there's a lot of business when they invest. The first thing they evaluate is risk. If you look at the United States, everything can be overturned in an election.
Yes, sir.
That happened 4 years. This business, like a factory, takes about 4 years to get set up and up and running, and maybe hoping to turn a profit. It takes more than 4 years to turn a profit. So for all these companies to invest billions of dollars in United States, look at what happened to TikTok. Mm-hmm. Look at what happened to TikTok. This is gonna give a lot of people pause. And by the way, look at what happened to the Huawei CTO Meng Wanzhou. You travel to a business meeting to United States, you could be arrested. And who is gonna risk that? Risk billions of dollars and possibly get imprisonment in the United States just because, an election, you elect some another cycle into the office who wants to tougher in China and overturn all the promise that Trump has made. That's not good long-term risk. That's not very good risk management to trust purely on words of Donald Trump, because United States have to prove itself that it's a stable place to park your money, like China has done. What China has done in last 40 years, if anything, is to prove that itself. It's it's a place where anybody in the world can come in and make money. And I'm not saying, I don't know if that same situation described United States in 2025. So again, so I kind of I'm not, and also a big difference between China and United States is execution, is implementation.
Yes, sir.
China could execute on its plans. China could have an industrial policy, carry it out, have a 5-year plan, stick with it, carry it out. 5-year plan, 10-year plan, etc. Again, United States, everything is so geared towards short term, because you're going to require a fundamental change in the U.S. society to do like the kind of industrial policy that China did to kind of reorganize the country. And so far, the only thing some of these elite talking pieces have come up with is, we're gonna do the anti-China stuff up to 11 to unite the American people. That's how we're gonna bring everyone together to do a whole society approach to restructure American society, which is tell them China is gonna take over. We cannot lose in the competition against China. I don't know how effective that's gonna work out. To be honest, I mean, like for most Americans, I don't think they really care about that stuff beyond a superficial level. They may agree with what their mainstream media news outlet tell them to think about China, but fundamentally, to actually translate that into action, I just don't see that happening. So I mean, like, yeah, I'm not very optimistic on their plans to reshape United States. China has a tool, whatever you think about the Communist Party of China, they know how to mobilize resources. They know how to mobilize the Chinese society to shape it, to mold it, to carry out industrial policy, to fundamentally change how everything works. U.S. government is not structured to do that. U.S. government is structured to funnel all the tax dollars to the elite, to the rich. That's what it's designed to do. It's very good at doing that, by the way. U.S. government is very good at what it does, which is continually funnel the money from the 99% toward the top 1%. Anything else is outside of its core competency. To quote Warren Buffett, you have to know your core competency. The core competency of U.S. government is to funnel the money to the top. It's not to do wealth redistribution. It's not to do it's to change a society, to rewire, to do industrial policy. I mean, they could. One thing they do very well is like society level industrial surveillance. They do that very well, but that does not translate into manufacturing prowess, for obvious reasons. So I just don't see that, what the stated goal of Trump administration is going to work out. This is just my opinion.
I interviewed former Assistant U.S. Secretary of the Treasury earlier this morning, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, and he was saying that what the government does, and I'm paraphrasing this, and uses the media as a mouthpiece to demonize everybody else, to look at everybody else as villains and a threat. He says the Chinese are the cause of this, the Muslims are the cause of this, and never ever focusing on the politicians who are robbing the people blind. And I concur with that 100%. But I want to address something. You were talking about Apple and Meta, and when I look at that, and I look at the U.S. government continuous assault on Huawei and TikTok and all of these brands, often the president or Congress gets a lot of the blame, and they should. But nobody brings up the fact that Meta, Apple, and all of these people are losing their position as a Western corporation dominate in these specific areas to these Chinese and Eastern companies, and they think this is a threat, so they use their influence and their money to try to unseat the rising companies like Huawei, like TikTok and stuff. And I think that is why, because when you look at the sanctions that took place against China, these were very specific tariffs, I should say, tariffs. All right, but there were no tariffs leveled on the industry where Musk is making his billions and billions of dollars, and he has multiple companies in China. And if it wasn't for being able to produce the cars and the parts in China, his company would falter and fall. So, I mean, I see this, and this is why I bring this up, because nobody talks about this. So, Carl, what do you say about this? Because I believe that you see what I see on this matter.
I mean, yeah, well, a lot of this anti-China stuff is driven by the big tech, by all these, like recently you have, especially like the people who invested a lot in AI, because the reason that why they want to drive the anti-China stuff is they want to pop up the China boogeyman, so the U.S. government can plow billions and billions of dollars into all their AI project, which, by the way, is not really profitable on their own. It depends on continued investment, other people's money, and the only way to frame that is, we cannot lose the AI competition to China. We cannot have the DeepSeek defeat American AI. Then this is why we need more chip sanction against China. This is why we need more investment. OpenAI had that $500 billion Stargate project. That was a big thing in Trump administration. $500 billion to do what? I mean, they're just spending those. Okay, in China, those $500 billion will be spent on upgrading the country's infrastructure. It will be built high-speed trains, which will run for many, many years. But let's look at how they would spend $500 billion in in AI. I mean, besides funding the lifestyle of all these AI all those AI CEOs who are all billionaires, by the way, but it also goes into buy more NVIDIA GPU chips to build huge data centers, which to host more of these GPUs. But look, Moore's law still applies. In every 6 months, those same equipment, those same semiconductors, chips will get devalued 50%. Their price will drop. They will depreciate. So the $500 billion will become like $250 billion in a few years, and even less. And like the depreciation rate in the computer equipment is really crazy. And it's not like high-speed rail. High-speed rail, China built the high-speed, the Beijing to Shanghai high-speed rail, 2008, 2010. It's still running. It's still running. It's still running 10 years later. But if you use $500 billion to build data centers, 10 years later, all that equipment will be obsolete. This is crazy. I mean, what really is about is inflating the AI bubble. To inflate the stock of NVIDIA. It's inflate the stock of all these people all these venture capitalists who invested in the AI startups. It's a big scam. It's a big financial scam. This is why they really hate China for stuff like DeepSeek, because DeepSeek said, you know what? We're going to give our software to the world for free. We're going to make it open source. Anybody can use it for free. And then you look at ChatGPT, people for premium service of ChatGPT, you need to pay like $25 a month. Then people are like, okay, why do we need ChatGPT? And we can use DeepSeek. It blew a hole in this whole AI asset bubble that was building up in the United States. That's why all these tech bros are scrambling to be even more anti-China, because they want to. It's a grift. This is what. To be anti-China is what made them billionaires and keep them billionaires. And and a lot of them, own a lot of this, own a lot of the medias, other than the ones that founded by USAID. These tech bros, have a lot of voice. And they are the ones who are really pushing for and for this anti-China agenda. And you already mentioned Meta and Google. Meta, they don't have any presence in China, but they're facing serious competition from ByteDance in the rest of the world. And Google, so is Google. Google is deeply investing in AI. So all these guys, they are trying to kill their competition. And the U.S. congressmen, they're just doing what they're been paid to do, right? That's their job. Their job is to function as a mouthpiece for even more richer assholes, oligarchs, like Zuckerberg, and they. This is the difference between China and United States. Again, is China is actually building stuff. U.S. everything is like a financial scam nowadays. It's all about it's all about blowing up. Now they're gonna make crypto the U.S. reserve. I mean, that's cray. It's everything is a big financialized scam in the United States. Where in China they still build stuff. I mean, if you look at the electric power generation chart of the two countries, Chinese electric power generation is going up straight line. United States for the last 20 years, electricity consumption is flat. So you're telling me the U.S. economy has actually grown multiple times in the last 20 years while can remain flat? I mean, even if they want to build all those data, invest $500 billion into this crazy Stargate project to build all these multiple data centers, U.S. power generation cannot support it. There's not enough electric generation in the United States to power all those data centers. How about invest in power generation in the United States for a change? They don't, because it all has been privatized. All these private companies, it's for them, it's better to squeeze out more profit on the existing infrastructure than building out new ones, because even they just don't want to incur a large capital investment on certain return when they could just squeeze the existing consumer base for more to pay more for what they have. So this is again to restructure, to address the fundamental problem of the United States. The problem that started was the Wall Street hollowing up manufacturing, offshoring to East Asia in the 1970s. The 40 years. This whole thing cannot be fixed by bringing more financial types. This time from Silicon Valley or this venture capitalist crowd, and try to do more financialized voodoo. It's not going to work. China is structured to do that kind of whole society approach because China has that kind of government. Communist Party of China is designed to restructure the society, to implement industrial policy. Again, United States government is not designed to do that. So we're going to see changes, obviously, under Trump. We're already seeing them cutting out, trying to cut government waste, quote unquote. But at one point, you have to build stuff. You can save money by cutting out the government expenditure, but at the end of the day, you have to still make productive use of it. Government expenditure is not necessarily bad. It just depends on what it spends on. Spending on USAID, that doesn't produce anything. that doesn't produce anything for United States. But spending on high-speed rail does. But I don't see United States spending to fix its infrastructure. That was not even on the agenda right now. I mean, Biden said he was going to build back better. I mean, I waited for 4 years. I haven't seen any evidence of that. But everyone knows the infrastructure is crumbling. The public schools needs fixing, but nothing is done. And I don't even see that those things are on agenda of the new Trump administration. So I don't expect anything to change substantially.
I left this on the screen for a second because this is something dear to me right here. Not because it's Richard Medhurst, but it's Cosmo Ray says journalist Richard Medhurst raided and detained. And why did I leave that up there? It's because they're coming after everybody. And it touches me because look, in the last 2 days, not today, but yesterday and the day before yesterday, I was visited. I won't tell you by who. Everybody's looking on. I won't personally put it out there by who, but my family was visited and we were told certain things, and that is for real. And I left and I went to my mother's house and I'm having coffee like I'm supposed to have coffee, and I get a phone call, and I said we need to talk to you, and I had to come back across town, and and I was told a few things that should not be, if this is the land of the free, should not be told to a person, and they should not be hounded. So I'm going to put it like that 2 days in a row, not today, yesterday, and day before yesterday. And I have the paperwork and everything to prove what I'm saying. So Dr. Paul Craig Roberts also mentioned that on the show today that I did with him about how they may come after me, and he didn't even really know that they had already been at my door twice in the last week. So, but I tell people I'm built for this. We've got to get the truth out regardless. What use is living if you're going to live a lie or you're always on your knees? It's better to die on your feet than to live on your knees. It's better to accomplish something and leave something for future generations instead of being so selfish thinking about you, because the future generations are what we're supposed to be trying to build this for, and stop being selfish thinking about self. Thinking about yourself. So, but I want to put something else up on the screen, Carl, that Speaking the Truth said, and they put it up there twice. So I know it was important, and I caught it both, by God's grace. I caught it both times. I was about to go and play a clip, but I caught it both times. So I'm going to put this up on the screen, and I want you to address this. DeepSeek is the biggest shock to human society to come out of China in terms of science and technology in 185 years. In almost 2 centuries, and China's free gift to the world in expensive AI tech.
Well, I think it's definitely a big shock, and the reason it's a big shock is because for average folks, we normally don't even think too much about AI, only except when sometimes we go to ChatGPT or Grok to ask a question or ask Gemini, but it's a big shock to the finance community in the United States. It's a big shock to the venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. It's a big shock to all those people who have been trying to hunt more people to invest in their AI startups, because the US whole AI scene is a big giant bubble, and DeepSeek is just about to pop it, because look at, they spend less money on developing DeepSeek than the car that Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, drives. I mean, this is a big shock, is because the mentality in the United States, especially among its financial elite, is that, we just need to throw a whole bunch of money to a problem, you will get resolved. And this is why I just recently saw a tweet by, what's his name, Chapman. He said, look, US still lead the world in innovation by far. And he used a chart of the investment into AI by listed by country. We're like United States way ahead of China. And so I quote tweeted, I'm like, did DeepSeek just prove that innovation is not necessarily correlate to the amount of money you spend? I mean, look, DeepSeek only spent 5.5 million to accomplish, you guys spend tens of hundreds of billions on this is why this DeepSeek is very threatening to the Wall Street, to the Silicon Valley tech bros. It's threatening their livelihood. Their livelihood is to continue to ram this scam to get more people to invest so their own stock portfolio can continue to go up. And now this is why the DeepSeek news wiped out $1.5 trillion off the U.S. stock market in a single day. This is because that made people wake up. It's like, oh my God, this is a bubble. The whole AI bubble is a financial scam. This is why it's deeply shocking. But what DeepSeek they did is a great thing by making it open source, so anybody can use it. This is a gift. This is a gift. Deep contrast to OpenAI, who in the original mission they said they're gonna be open. They're gonna be free. There's gonna be free use to everyone. But when they grow to critical mass, suddenly they decide, you know what, we're a for-profit private or a company now, and we're gonna need more billions of investment to power ChatGPT. And again, also China shows how quickly it could catch up, because the whole U.S. chip sanction on China was to slow China's progress in AI. And before DeepSeek, China's AI advancement was actually mostly concentrated in manufacturing. United States did have a lead in ChatGPT because they. While my friend Chinese tech expert TP Huang said, because China excels in manufacturing, so they develop AI for like robotics, for advanced manufacturing. United States developed ChatGPT because United States is very good at producing PowerPoint presentations. But now China even caught up in that. Now China have DeepSeek. So where's the edge? Where's the edge that United States have in AI anymore? And this is despite the most stringent chip sanction on China. This is why I think many people who know the Chinese tech scene, I know Steve Xu have visited China last year, talking to all the big head honchos in the Chinese tech industry. He said he know everyone had acquired confidence. Everyone in China had acquired confidence that despite U.S. sanctions, they have what they need to achieve their goals. And I think DeepSeek it's just a manifestation of that. And I think we're going to see more and more surprises coming out of China in the coming years, because this is a result of deepening of China's human capital. A lot of people don't realize China is not about cheap labor manufacturing. And people think about China nowadays. A lot of people still think, oh, it's slave labor, it's sweatshop, because they have no human rights, so no, they have no regulations, or they work in slave-like conditions. But no, they have robots planting trees in the desert. Are you kidding me? And they're gonna have. And right now, China is moving very fast in the advanced manufacturing because the deepening of their human capital pool. When I was born in China in 1970s, 1976, at that time, among my parent generation, my dad and his classmates, college grads, there were like 1%. There were like about 1% out of all China's population that graduated from college, that pursue advanced degree. And today, with more people going to college, China is producing 4.5 million STEM grads each year. That compared to about 500,000 for United States. So China graduate 9 times the STEM graduate that United States graduates. And every year China is producing more because every year there's a larger student body that's enrolling in college. And out of those people going to college in China, a hefty percentage of that, about 40%, choose STEM field, choose like hard science. And this is huge contrast in the United States because in US, it's not that US don't have smart people. And it's not even like Vivek Ramaswamy saying that you Americans are lazy. No, it's not that. There are a lot of smart people in the United States, but they all go to finance because Wall Street offers them high salaries. So everyone go to become financial scammers. All the smart cookies realize, oh, okay, to really make it in the United States, we just got to go to the Wall Street to make the real big money, right? Why would I even care about studying chemical engineering or mechanical engineering or electrical engineering? Or we'll just go to Wall Street. That's where money is to be made. So all the elite capitals in the United States get funneled to Wall Street to work on how to efficiently craft a computerized trading strategy to create more money in stock trading or crypto. Whereas the smartest fraction in China, they're making robotics, they're making advances in bio research. Now China is going to lead United States in the bio research as well. So again, I don't see Trump administration I don't even see that's even on Trump's administration radar, right? United States do have smart people, but the problem is all the smart people are incentivized to be financial scammer like Vivek Ramaswamy himself. And they're not going to engineering. I mean, this is why Vivek Ramaswamy, he failed to read the room. He's trying to talk down to Americans like, oh, you guys are just lazy. If you guys work harder, and then we can compete with China. No, because everyone, just like yourself, Vivek, himself was he himself epitomized the problem in the United States. He's a reasonably intelligent dude, yet he did not go into engineering. He went straight into financial scams. He went to bought a company that he knew had a iffy that has like an iffy patent that's probably not going to be approved. I think and he, that's why he bought it penny for the dollar. And then he went on to all the when a big media blitz to tell them how he developed a wonder drug that's gonna like, once all the poured into his company, made him a billionaire. He sold, and then of course later they realized there's really nothing to the patent. The company collapsed, but he already became a billionaire. So that he himself epitomized the problem in the United States. All the smart cookies went to become financial scammers. Like, if that problem is not addressed, now forget about restructuring US, forget about reindustrializing United States. US will continue to be the shithole because everyone will try to be the 1% by pursuing financial scam. I'm done with my rant.
I want to go back to something. I'm going to address something before we listen to a little clip. I think the thing went up too fast. I want to go back to Greg D. Greg, I know you have good intentions on here for what you said, but I would advise you to go to Sonar 21. That's Larry Johnson's website, and put in his search engine the Red Pill Diaries, and you'll see in there he's done plenty write-ups on me and how. And in one he said that my channel should be over 100,000, and that was last year. and we all know, all of the people I interviewed know that I have been blackballed on YouTube, and they have taken me out of the search engine. You see, even before your comment, Max Sparks put up something. M Sparks says he didn't even get a notification. That happens all the time. So I just wanted to inform you about that. So it may look like the channel is not super big, but if you look at the content and you look at the guests, the quality of the guests, I have the exact same content or better quality content than a lot of the huge channels. So you look at that, okay? Now I want to go to something, because this is my guy, Carl. Carl kicks butt. Everybody listen to me good. I'm not just saying that Carl kicks butt. I tell Carl that off the camera. Carl kicks butt. But I I want you to, and before I play the clip, I also have to say this. Carl is also my baby girl's favorite guest and my mom's favorite guest. All the time, they always, if Carl is coming on, oh, Carl is coming on, you know. So so I want to play this clip because we said we would address what's going on in Gaza. We're gonna move it around a little bit and come back to China because I have something on China. But I want you to listen to these. This is a short clip, about a minute and 28 seconds, and I want you to give me your take on it right after this, Carl.
Palestinians will be not just occupied by the Israeli occupation, they're going to be occupied by Americans. You know, Netanyahu wouldn't stop the bombardment of Gaza until he had secured something that would assure him of both his political future. And this meeting with Trump is showing that. He's seemingly secured Gaza itself for the Israeli occupation through what looks like will be an American occupation. This was their plan from the very beginning. You know, they purposely made Gaza uninhabitable, so Palestinians have no choice but to leave entirely now. They bombed every inch of land from north to south so mercilessly until nothing could survive there. When Donald Trump says he wants the world to end up settling in Gaza, he means Zionists who are not from the land settling in Gaza. What they want to do is demolition it, turn it into settlements for Western Zionists to go settle in. And they want to extract the gas. We all know that the Gazan gas fields are rich with gas, and there are many people in the United States and Europe who want that gas. And that's what they plan to do with it. They plan to depopulate the region, demolish it, set up gas fields, and create settlements. There is no intent of giving Palestinians that land back after they clear it out, demolish it, and build new settlements. It will be settled by Zionists from across the world, whether they're from Europe, America, South America, wherever they're from.
Okay, I want to play one follow-up, and then I want you to address it. And just, here we are, right?
Joining us now from Sana'a is Tim Anderson, director at the Center for Hegemonic Studies there. Joining us from Sana'a, Yemen. Hello, Mr. Anderson. Pleasure to check in with you. Hope you're safe and doing well. Your thoughts on these very provocative comments coming out of Donald Trump's mouth earlier?
Yes, they are provocative, and I think everyone recognises what the UN rapporteur said, that it is illegal and immoral. But more than that, I don't think Trump has the capacity to do it. He doesn't have any greater capacity than Biden did, and Biden did his worst, basically. I think more likely we're going to see, if there is any attempt to carry out that threat, I think Trump will use mercenaries. Let's remember he tried mercenaries in a failed invasion of Venezuela 5 years ago. It was a spectacular failure. He doesn't want body bags coming home of US soldiers, so he'll probably use mercenaries if he's going to do anything at all. And that's not going to last very long. They will face the same resistance that the Israelis and the US commanders have used, because let's remember the US command has always been involved in the operation in Gaza.
Right, but today we simply don't have, Mr. Anderson, the international bodies and mechanisms to stop the man if he tries. If he wants to try, what do we have? I mean, we have a UN that has no teeth. We have an ICC that has no power to enforce or any real abiding power. What can the world do to stand in front of Donald Trump if he decides to go through with this threat?
That's right. The UN will do nothing. The mechanisms will not work, except to the extent that they have already indicted the Israeli leaders for their crimes. I don't expect much will come of that, but it's important because it signals to the world that these are indeed the criminals who've carried out the crimes that we've seen every day on our television screens and our mobile phones for the last 15 months. The people that are going to stop it are the resistance. the Gaza resistance, which we saw coming out in large numbers when the prisoners of war were freed. And let's remember the US has acknowledged that from the point of view of Hamas, before we talk about the other resistance factions, they recruited another 15,000 members during the war on Gaza there. So the resistance is not going away. We saw hundreds of young men well equipped coming out with the prisoners of war were exchanged, and that's what's going to face the mercenaries that Trump sends in, if he does anything at all.
And that's exactly the thing. Other than the Gaza resistance and small arms protection, what else do Palestinians in Gaza have to protect themselves in case Donald Trump tries to invade and take over Gaza?
They have their moral authority, and they have the fact that the illegitimacy of Trump's plans and Netanyahu's plans will be condemned by the world. They'll become pariahs. They'll become isolated. But you're right. Physically, it's the resistance that is still causing casualties amongst the Israelis in the West Bank and in Gaza. That hasn't gone away. It's not going to go away. If there's a new wave of mercenaries, they'll face the same resistance, and the resistance will get some support from the resistance in Lebanon, from the resistance in Yemen.
All right, bud, stay safe. Always a pleasure to check in with you, Mr. Tim Anderson, Director for Center for Counter-Hegemonic Studies, joining us out of...
So before you address that, Sheila Gray says, now I understand why I had to go through Brian Berletic to find you. Well, now you know. But Carl, what is your take on the videos, especially concerning the situation with Trump speaking about ethnic cleansing the entirety of the Gaza Strip, which is actually against international law to speak like, but he's the president of the United States, and you know, when has law ever restrained the United States president? So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is always the plan. I mean, we all know Trump is kind of one of the biggest Israel supporters. And what Trump is trying to do is he's trying to bring back the Abraham Accords. Remember, the Abraham Accords 1.0 was done by Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to get all these Muslim majority countries and Arab countries to recognize Israel, to normalize relationship with Israel, to further legitimize Israel, and in return, the United States promised a lot of money and maybe to offer them protection against Iran, et cetera, et cetera. But Abraham Accord was dead in the water after October 7th. So now Trump is back. He's trying to bring back Abraham Accords, but Saudi Arabia already said, they cannot recognize Israel unless there's a Palestinian state. And so what Trump is trying to do, this is what I believe this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to depopulate Gaza, ethnically cleanse Gaza, and then they will have they'll make a quote-unquote Palestinian state in the West Bank in a very, very much reduced circumstances. I mean, the West Bank has already been gobbled up and in many ways by Israel, crisscrossed by Israeli settlement. So what's left of pieces of West Bank, they're going to call it the Palestinian state to satisfy people like Saudis and the other Gulf countries, and try to get them to recognize Israel in return. I think that's what they're trying to achieve. But I always have doubts on these guys' implementations. Right? U.S. can never lack of plans. They always come up with all these crazy ass plans, but it all comes down to implementation. And how is Trump gonna do that? Is he gonna send the U.S. military to Gaza to round up everybody, to deport people, to process them, deport them to another country? I mean, that's gonna be, something that Israelis themselves couldn't do. Keep in mind, and given all the past U.S. debacles in the Middle East, I don't see U.S. necessarily have the capacity to do it, to carry out. And keep in mind, U.S. is doing this without any international support at all. This everybody condemn it as illegal, as it rightly fully it is. Um, United States should have no jurisdiction in Gaza whatsoever. But if but yeah, even logistically, I just don't see U.S. actually have the capability, the capacity to carry out such large scale ethnic cleansing operation in Gaza. Something that Israel themselves failed to do, and this may just be talk from Trump, another like hot air, or maybe they're crazy enough to try to do it. In any case, I don't see I don't see much chance of success for this plan. This is an insane, crazy plan. But also I don't see them bring back Abraham Accords 2.0 to life anytime soon. Not in today's environment. Like Saudi, they already saw which way the wind is blowing. If anything, the Saudis know how to hedge their bets, and they're hedging their bets right now by upgrading their relationship with China. And so that's another angle for U.S. involvement in the Middle East. They are right now trying to wall off Middle East from any non-American influence, right? They're trying to mark the Middle East as their backyard, and they do that, of course, through their proxy Israel, but they're also trying to get buy-in from Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia, like UAE. But again, the whole plans of ethnic cleansing Gaza is not going to please the Arab streets. Nobody is gonna go with that and say, okay, now you can you can recognize Israel. Nobody's gonna buy that. So it's both diplomatically foolish and also logistically, I just don't see it's feasible.
I think this has a lot to do with the newly discovered gas fields and oil fields off the coast of Gaza, plus its prime real estate land. And I think that they want to remove the people that's confined to Gaza, so that they can have strategic depth vis-a-vis Egypt, and they can also make a lot of money with the gas and oil. It can make Israel self-sufficient, economically, and viable to itself. Because right now, most people don't realize that Israel is a U.S., British, French project that is not self-sufficient and not viable as a state without the injection of U.S. and Western funds. And as a matter of fact, Israel is essentially bankrupt also if the United States and Europe does not pour in that money. And so to seize the Gaza Strip would also mean that they would have the water rights off the Gaza Strip with the newly found huge oil and gas reserves, and then they can build up resorts on the coast of Gaza, which is land that is very sought after, and then they can have constant revenue coming in to sustain the Zionist state Israel at the expense of the indigenous Palestinian populations. What do you say about that, Carl?
Yeah, I mean, money is always that's always a factor. The offshore gas deposit in near Gaza, that Israel has always expressed an interest in exploit that. But also the whole U.S. is trying to shore up its own alliance system in the Middle East through trying to coerce and to incentivize its other Arab allies to recognize Israel, to solidify Israel's position. But you're right, Israel would be bankrupt if there's no continued injection of American funds. This shows the limit of Elon Musk claiming of cutting government expenditure. Israel is one of the biggest expenditure right there. Just cut Israel off. That would save a lot of money. But Trump is never going to do that because a lot of his backers, are rabid Zionists. So Israel is, Israel still did not improve its own chance of long-term success by what they did after October 7th, and whatever mechanician that Bibi Netanyahu worked out with Trump, I just don't see that pans out. I mean, if anything, Israel and Trump have showed that they will go ahead and do things in defiance of the international norm and international laws, but there's a limit to that. Even after Israel's insane operation in Gaza, such a small limited strip of land, they still couldn't eliminate Hamas. They did not do. They fail in their stated goal to eliminate Hamas. So this to deport the population in Gaza, this is just their latest scheme. I just don't think it will succeed.
And I think going back to something we discussed earlier about the aid, the USAID, I also think that the revelations of that has taken a little bite or a little steam off of the reporting of the displacement of the people of Gaza, because everybody is talking about USAID and color revolution and all of that, and the media is not truly focused on what was said about the displacement of an entire people. And what was crazy, one of the explanations that was offered was, it's a horrible place. Let's move the people off the place and rebuild it for. Well, why is it so hard to rebuild them while they're there? I mean,
why is it horrible? Why is it horrible? Who made it horrible? Just stop making it horrible. I mean, wouldn't that be the reasonable solution? Just stop making that place horrible.
Mm-hmm. And so, this is what, and I can say Trump is living up to his campaign promise on this. So listen to what he said here.
Save Israel, right? Save Israel. And when I'm back in the Oval Office, I will support Israel's right to win its war on terror. They have to have a right to win the war. Thank you. And I will give Israel the support that it needs to win, but I do want them to win fast. Wouldn't it be nice if they could win fast? And we have to let them win fast. To our enemies around the world, we want our hostages back, and they better be back before I assume office. If Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are elected, the radical left flag burners and Hamas sympathizers will not just be causing chaos on our streets, they'll be running U.S. foreign policy in the White House, and Israel will be gone. It will be gone. I never thought I'd say that a year ago, even 2 years ago. I never thought I'd say it. But Israel will be gone, I believe. And remember, everything Trump said was right. Do you ever see the sign? Everything I said was right. I actually think that's true.
Your opinion and your thoughts on that.
I mean, that's just the usual Trump self-promotion stuff mixed with some bravado. But yeah, he's always, there was no secret. Trump is just as pro-Israel as the last guy, as the Biden administration. I mean, they're all the same. And what I still think that Trump did better, at least he had the ceasefire implemented, so the carnage was stopped, at least temporarily, and liberals, of course, show their color by now cheering for the fate of Palestinians. Like no, we all know you mofos didn't care a bit of Palestinians. Now you're just showing your ass by cheering on people suffering. So I just don't see again. I just don't see how Trump will execute on his on how he can deliver on his crazy plans. I mean, he has a lot of things on his plate right now. Trump, I think it's more realistic for Trump to grab Greenland from Denmark than carry out ethnic cleansing in Gaza, because I mean, grabbing Greenland, there's literally nothing Denmark can do. But Gaza, you know, the resistance still lives on. You know, I don't see Trump can accomplish what Israel has failed for, you know, last year and a half.
Now, turning back to, well, before we go back to China, what is your thoughts on what is happening vis-a-vis Trump, the United States, NATO, and Russia concerning Ukraine?
This is interesting because things are. Zelensky is going to be put in a squeeze because we had that revelation. By the way, USAID was funding like 97% of the Ukrainian media. Yes. So there goes their propaganda arm, and now they're already publicly dressing down Zelensky to tell him that he needs to come to the table to negotiate with the Russians. And you know, Zelensky will be dragged, screaming and kicking, but there's nothing he could do. But it depends. Again, it depends what United States will promise on that front. You know, the Russians have to be satisfied. Their demands have to be satisfied. And the Russian demands has been clear from the very beginning, is that Ukraine will not be allowed to join Russia. I mean, to join NATO. That was a red line. And if United States can deliver that that fundamental promise, I mean, even if they do promise that, I don't know how much Russia could trust them. You know, with the failure of Minsk I and Minsk II. In any case, Russia is winning the war. You know, they have the advantage in the battlefield right now. So Russia can sit pretty and wait for Trump to offer a favorable term. And we'll just have to see what Trump can offer, can bring to the table in this front.
I think they're ready to try to come to some type of agreement because, as the U.S. Military has stated and as political leaders have stated, they see China as the greatest and most pressing threat to the dominance, and as they put it, the international rules-based order. So I believe that they're willing to will and deal to try to put Russia and Ukraine on the back burner, not completely take it off, but put it on the back burner so that they can focus the little resources and whatever military capabilities that they have left on China. I believe that they are desperate now because with this DeepSeek and all of this other stuff, and then China flying not one but two sixth-generation warplanes, and then China demonstrating the viability and the power of its new generation of supercomputers, and also doing a Star Trek. I call it doing a Star Trek by using teleportation through what is it? The quantum communication systems and stuff. I think this is pressing not just the United States but the Western world because, again, I hate to say this, but I have to say it because it's right. They see China as a threat because it does not play by the rules of the Western world, and it is a non-white, non-Western nation that refuses to toe to the United States dictates. And this is unacceptable, not only to Washington, D.C., but to London, to Brussels, to Paris, to Rome, and to all of those capitals that benefit on Western domination. Carl, I know you want to interject. Go ahead.
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, there's always an underlying racism under all these anti-China talk because they just can't accept China as an equal, and what's worse, for China to surpass them in any aspect. And I think you're right about them want to wrap up Russia-Ukraine conflict into a frozen conflict. You know, trying to bring it back to kind of the state before the special military operation. And I think we'll probably see less crazy provocation like direct attack on Russia with American medium range ballistic missiles. I mean, that was insane. That happened under the last days of Biden administration. We'll probably see less of that kind of the crazy provocation that push us closer and closer to a nuclear war. So that means, you know, they might still have trench warfare in the front. You know, you're going to have footages coming out of soldiers doing hand-to-hand combat or combat with drones, but it's not going to be anything crazy like terrorist attack in Moscow or American missiles fired toward deep strike into Russia. So in that aspect, it's good. It's good. We're kind of dialing down, climbing down from nuclear Armageddon. And as for China, you know, right now, all these, what I saw was, especially with the recent TikTok ban that led to the TikTok to red note migration. What I saw was all these Americans that come into contact with real Chinese people online. A lot of the prejudices, Cold War propaganda just melted away when they see how Chinese people actually live, how China really is. And I think, and with the freezing of USAID money, there will be you know, I think more people hopefully will see through the propaganda, and less propaganda will be produced, at least for a while the US propaganda machine restructure itself. So you know, I don't think there's deep antagonism toward China beyond a superficial level that was incited by the US elite for various reasons. And I think, again, Trump has its plate full. I think it's more likely scenario that United States will retrench itself into being a regional power to dominate Western Hemisphere. This is why they're gonna try to get Greenland. They're trying to put the squeeze on Canada, and they might even do something in Panama. It's all possible. They're trying to, by acknowledging it's now a multipolar world, United States is trying to shore up its own pole, and that means retrenching its resources from Europe, from Ukraine conflict, for example. As for China, they still very much like to confront China and contain China, but time again is on China's side, because as we have seen in the past few years, China just keep on coming out with surprises. So as long as the US do not make a brash move of sparking a war in Taiwan Strait by, you know, telling the Taiwan government, for example, to declare independence, as long as that doesn't happen, I don't think that it's likely, given the current scenario. As long as that doesn't happen, China will continue to grow stronger despite all the U.S. effort to slow it down. You know, I as I said earlier, DeepSeek is just the beginning. We're going to see more and more paradigm shift surprises coming out of China, and at some point, United States just have to move off the denial phase of the 5-step grieving process, right? We're still stuck in denial. At some point, you know, at least get to anger. Okay, then we can get to acceptance. But right now we're still in the denial. I think the next few years there's going to be more that denial will intensify. There will be more copium production in US, but eventually we're going to have to move on through the 5-step grieving process to finally come to acceptance that China's rise is inevitable. I think this is my last word.
I don't believe that the elite will accept that. This is why they're deploying troops, redeploying weapons, missiles, and everything else. Because I've read their writings and I've seen their policies, especially to not allow any nation or combination of nations to rise or emerge as a rival to the United States dominance. They've also put it in their writings that, and this was well over a year ago, that they have 12 to 18 months to prevent China's rise, or it would be over for the United States. And we are either at that 18 months or we've passed it. And I believe this is why they're trying to wheel and deal with Russia over Ukraine, because with China coming out with DeepSeek and China coming out with these two new stealth warplanes, and also for those who don't know, China also has come out with a new destroyer. We thought the destroyer that they had was something. They just came out with new warships too. So I think this is causing a lot of panic and consternation in Washington and in London, because you can't leave out London. These two are the same, one and the same. And I remember on top of that, there was an article that came out in 2021 by National Interest. And it was titled, what was the title of it? China now surpasses the United States, and I'm paraphrasing. And this is the first paragraph of it. And I'm going to read part of this, and then I'll play a clip to follow it up, and then we can wrap it up, Carl. The article says, this week, the IMF presented its 2020 World Economic Outlook, providing an overview of the global economy and the challenges ahead. The most inconvenient fact in the report is one Americans don't want to hear. And even when they hear it, refuse to accept it. China has now displaced the U.S. to become the largest economy in the world, measured by the more refined yardstick that both the IMF and the CIA now judge to be the single best metric for comparing national economies. The IMF report shows that China's economy is 1/6 larger than America's economy. Now, that was in 2020. That was in 2020. Now, we know that America, even though she says her economy has grown, notice her economy grows, but unemployment continues to mount, infrastructure continues to lapse, trade deficits continue to grow, but her economy, which mathematically is almost an impossibility. But on top of that, I remember, now this is 2020, but I remember in 2015 when they announced that China's economy had surpassed the United States. So we're talking about with 2025, they announced it in 2020, but then they also announced it in 2015. And I'm going to play that clip for everybody. I looked it up last night, and I was searching, and I thought they had erased it off of YouTube. So it's a short clip, and it talks about China surpassing the United States. And here it is right here. So everybody, it's 3 minutes. Be patient. I want you to listen to this. This is from 2015, and everything is even worse for the U.S. economy and better for the Chinese economy.
This was another wild day in a wild week on Wall Street. The Dow plunged nearly 335 points today, its biggest point drop of the year. But just yesterday, it was up nearly 275, its biggest gain of the year. And the day before that, it fell 273. And by the way, after all that bungee jumping, the index is up only 0.5% for the entire year. Let's bring in Anthony Mason now. Anthony, what is going on?
Yeah, Scott, it was the Dow's worst day since February. The market's been whipsawed all week, trying to figure out just where the global economy is. It rallied 275 points yesterday when the Federal Reserve minutes showed the Fed intends to keep interest rates low. But it lost all of that and more today on worries about slowing growth in Europe, where some analysts now fear the possibility, Scott, of a double-dip recession.
And as we were watching the Dow bounce around, came the news today that China has surpassed the United States as the largest economy in the world.
Yeah, the trend line's been clear for a while, Scott, but the International Monetary Fund says that by one measure, China has now passed us. And the shift in economic power is visible right here on the streets of New York. landmark Waldorf Astoria Hotel on Park Avenue is where President Obama stays when visiting New York. In 1974, when China's future premier Deng Xiaoping first visited the U.S., he stayed at the Waldorf. Now, a firm led by Deng's grandson-in-law is buying the Waldorf. In the largest deal ever by a Chinese investor for an American building, Anbang Insurance will pay almost $2 billion to buy the hotel from Hilton. And the IMF says China's surging economic power will this year surpass the U.S. when China's GDP, adjusted for purchasing power, will hit $17.6 trillion to the U.S. economy's $17.4 trillion. How fast is China growing at this point?
The Chinese economy is growing at the slowest it's grown in a generation, which is just over 7%.
Bill Adams of PNC Financial says that's still more than double the U.S.
In the U.S., we'd kill for 7% real GDP growth. But by Chinese standards, that's very, very slow. And wages are rising very quickly, so it's no longer a cheap labor supply in China. So a lot of the drivers of that old growth model have sort of been used up.
The U.S. had been the world's biggest economy since 1872, when we surpassed Britain. And in raw dollars, the U.S. remains number one. U.S. GDP is more than $17 trillion. China's is just over $10 trillion. But economists estimate China will surpass us by that measure, too, within a decade. Together, the U.S. and China account for fully 1/3 of the global economy.
Thanks, Anthony.
So out of his mouth, it was a guarantee that the Chinese would surpass the United States, even in nominal dollar terms, in 10 years. We're at the 10-year mark. From 2015 to 2025.
I mean, you know, a lot of people question Chinese GDP numbers. I'm like, just look at the electric consumption. You know, U.S. electric consumption is flat because U.S. can't generate any more electricity. Whereas Chinese electric consumption is climbing year after year. And in the United States, you have to remember, OnlyFans is counted towards GDP. So, you know, and then, you know, when we're looking at the U.S. economy in the nominal dollar terms, this is because right now, because the hikes the interest rate, so U.S. greenback is quite strong right now. I mean, these are just like financial sleight of hands by, you know, Federal Reserve. They can cut the rate tomorrow or can raise the rate tomorrow. Then by they're raising a rate, having a meeting, does that magically raise the U.S. economy by like 1-2%? No. I mean, by revaluing the currency, you are not magically making the U.S. economy bigger. So in the real China is already the number one manufacturing power in the world. Everything is made in China. You know, like a lot of people in the United States still talk about Chinese made goods as cheap, inferior in quality. Look. Everything is made in China. Let's make that clear. You are only talking about whether you're buying U.S. and Western brands that's made in China or Chinese brand that's made in China. All of them are made in China, right? This Nikes, iPhone, they're all made in China. Right now, a lot of the last thing remaining to the West is the image, the brand image, right? For iPhone that they produce for like $20 in China, or a couple like $100 in China. They come to US and sell you for $1,000, and they capture a lot of the profit because it's brand power. But it doesn't actually reflect the cost of manufacturing because the manufacturing is done in China. And right now they're panicking because they're seeing the Chinese brands themselves are starting to become competitive. That's why US start banning Huawei. That's why they're trying to can TikTok. Is because right now, but everything else is already made in China, and And there's no doubt. There's no doubt in my mind that Chinese economy is already bigger than United States, and that trend is going to continue. This is why I think the U.S. elite will keep on climbing onto the U.S. primacy project. They'll keep on trying to keep China down, but I think that China has already gone beyond the escape velocity. I don't think China can be contained at this point, not in 2025.
Oh, once again, Carl, you hit it out the park. We got to give you some applause.
Nice. Well, we don't need laugh track because I can provide the laugh track myself.
Carl, once again, man, thank you for joining me on the program, man. We got to do it again soon. You know how we do it.
For sure. For sure.
All right, be safe and be blessed, my friend.
Thanks, guys.